Hey there, friends on YouTube and elsewhere in the podcast land. My name is Jason, sometimes known as the JTL, and this is the Painfully Honest Tech podcast coming right at you. Tech so honest, it hurts. And I'm going to dole out some hurt all over the place today. You know, one thing that always kind of annoys me is like I make videos where I criticize both Apple and I also criticize the Android. But every time I criticize one or the other, I get the fans of whichever one I'm criticizing coming in and telling me how stupid I am. So today on the Painfully Honest Tech podcast, I am going to talk about both Android and Apple. Everything that's wrong with Apple and Android today. So buckle your seatbelts. This ought to be fun. So I'm going to start with Apple because I think the most people accuse me of being an Apple fanboy, an iSheep or something like that, but that's not true. I'm just going to go down the list and sort of think about the things that, you know, give some examples. What is wrong with Apple? Number one, the price of everything. I mean, this past year we saw MacBooks increase in price by several $100s. The HomePod is more expensive than any of its competitors, and it's the iMac Pro. The iMac Pro is like it costs like the down payment of a car if people still even do that thing. Yeah, they call it the Apple tax. And I would be willing to pay the Apple tax if everything that they released was functional from the get-go. The HomePod recently being the biggest, contributor to this idea. The HomePod's $350. The competition, you can get two of the most closest competition for for two of them for $350. So that really is not cool. I know that Apple prices themselves like a premium deluxe brand, and they have become a lifestyle brand that is just like this for this thing that people can achieve, and the price is part of the status. But I'm really annoyed at how that price continues to go up. I mean, need I say anything more than iPhone 10 when discussing price? So let's go on. Another thing that really annoys me about Apple, no pro-level computers, no modular design available whatsoever. And the last modular design computer that we had from Apple was the trash can Mac Pro. And that Mac Pro came out in 2013, and they are still selling it. It's not worth buying at this point, but they are still selling it for a starting price of $3,000. So that's just, again, insulting. You know, and so without having a modular design Pro computer like the ancient Mac Pro 1,1 that I have right here, it sort of leaves their core customer from back in the day when they really needed core customers to stick with them out in the cold. And it's been many, many years since Apple has shown any kind of support or love for their professional clients. Let's talk about the number of iPhones. I mean, this is a business strategy that I cannot understand. Right now, I think there are 7 or 8 iPhone. Well, there are at least 8 iPhone models available now that we have the red iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. So what kind of business strategy is this? Let's make, the phones from 2 years ago really cheap and the phones from last year a little bit cheaper, and then we'll charge everybody what we would normally charge for this year's phone, and then we'll have this special phone that we're going to charge $1,000 for. $1,249 if you count the if you count in the 256 gigabyte model. So now, why would you have 8 models if you want to sell this $1,000 phone? If you want to sell the iPhone 10, then you have to have the courage of your convictions, Apple, and say, we're only going to sell 3 phones this year. This year, we're going to sell the iPhone 8, 8 Plus, and 10. Maybe keep the SE in there for shits and giggles, but that is what they need to do. And now next year, they're talking about coming out with 3 phones, 5.8-inch model, 6.1-inch model, 6.5-inch model. I can't even imagine what they're going to price that 6.5-inch model at. If it's over $1,000, then I'm just gonna shit the brick or something, because there's no reason. There's no reason. You should start at 700, and you should go up to 900, and that's it. No more. I think the slow sales that the iPhone 10 suffered from were, in fact, because there were too many options out there, and when you start putting a 4-digit price tag on something, people will start to do math and think about what they want to pay or what they should pay. This next one comes with no real need for discussion. I think when I say this, everybody will understand. Siri. The dumbest smartphone assistant, but also the oldest. Get yourselves together over there. You are supposed to be. You should be way ahead of this game. What is this? 5, 6? We'll just say number 6. The dongle life. It is really kind of insulting. Insulting is the word that I would like to use when they take away things that people are using, especially professionals are using, and then they tell you, okay, you got to buy this MacBook Pro, and it only has this 4 versions of this one port. You got 4 of them, and you can plug anything into it as long as you have a dongle. And how much does the dongle cost? Here's what I bought a MacBook Pro, and then I ended up spending an extra $600 on the dongle stuff that I would need to make it sort of just so I could drop it on the desk and plug in one thing and go. At that point, I realized that I had close to $3,000 in my laptop computer, and that was just kind of stupid. So I took it back. Other things that are wrong with Apple: tax dodging. I'm not any kind of accountant. I'm not good with numbers at all. All I know is Apple has played sort of fast and loose with some tax laws overseas and other places, and they aren't always they're not owning up to it, really. They're just not owning up to it. But the good thing is now they're coming back to manufacture in the U.S. because of our president's new tax laws. So they're like, well, now we can make money manufacturing in the U.S., so we'll come on back. What if you didn't leave at all before? What if you supported the American economy? You're an American company. I don't know. What am I crazy? What am I talking about? What am I talking about? I have to be crazy. And, well, it kind of dovetails into this next point. We'll call it 8. Point number 8, which is their lack of altruism. Think about this. Bill Gates has given some number of billions of dollars to charities in the idea of helping the world become a better place. What does Apple do? Apple uses their money as leverage to make more money. Okay, and I've been on record supporting the new education iPad, but somebody pointed this out to me the other day, and it kind of stuck with me. You know, it's great that Apple wants to support the education market and bring out a lower cost option. However, if they really, this like nearly $1 trillion company, if they really wanted to make an impact on the education industry, well, it's telling. If they really wanted to make an impact on education in the United States, they would have given away cheap iPads to school systems. Just, you know, it's something that I'm sure could be done, or at least offer deep discounts to the school systems if they're buying in the hundreds of devices. So I just, you know, they are just not quite all the way there when it comes to, they say they want to be a company that supports people in their lives and blah, 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 but all they do is make more money. So that's number 8, 10, 9, I don't know. The next one, they're really bad at design. Now, you're going to think initially, what do you mean they're really bad at design? Well, the thing is, they design beautiful products. They really do. They're beautiful products. However, they always start with the form in mind and then shoehorn in the function. What are some examples of this? Well, let me see. I wrote some down. The smart battery case is the worst piece of industrial engineering and design that I've seen in, I don't know, maybe ever. The dongles. You know, they build a beautiful laptop computer and then they say, stick this octopus thing off of it so you can actually use it the way it's intended. Then it just makes, the touch bar. The touch bar. That's another thing. They don't want to make a touch screen laptop, so they give us the touch bar. The touch bar is offensive. It makes the computer cost $3,000 more. So anyway, let me see. I got a few more for Apple before I switch over to Android. They continue to make their devices less and less upgradable. The $5,000 to $20,000 iMac Pro doesn't have any user changeable parts. You can't put in more RAM, can't change out the processors, can't do anything. So they're basically insisting that this is what you need and you're going to pay this for it. And when it's no longer what you need, then you have to pay more. So that's they got some stones over there at Apple. It's similar to what we used to have to talk about with the automotive industry back in the 70s and 80s, this planned obsolescence, where what Apple really does is they say, okay, we're going to make this beautiful thing, but we're also going to create a lifestyle around it. And you're going to want these things in your heart, and then your head is going to realize that you need to upgrade because we have closed down your options when it comes to being able to upgrade. The Mac Mini is a perfect example. That was the sort of secret super weapon of computers back into like around 2012. The 2012 Mac Mini, you could change a lot of things. You could put SSDs in there. You could put double SSDs in there. You could change the memory. There was lots of things, and you could get the i7 version of that, and it was just an incredibly good computer. So what did they do with the subsequent models? They took out all of that upgradability. They made the products. There's not even an i7 version available anymore. they made really dowdy, stupid i5 models that are underpowered and not really worth anything, and they cost anywhere from $400 or $500 to $600 or $700 and more. So anyway, I just that's planned obsolescence, really kind of forcing you to buy products that will, in fact, become obsolete, so that you will have to continue to buy the products. And that brings me to the vaunted, the much ballyhooed ecosystem. I call it ecosystem indenture. They put you in this situation where they make all their products work really well together, which is a cool thing. But then they say, well, but now you're stuck. You want your iMessage, you want to get messages on your PC and on your computer, on your iPad, all these things. You want everything to be connected. Well, you got to stay with us. And see, Podcastage here says he's stuck with Apple for Final Cut and Logic Pro. Those are both great products. And I love that the upgrades are free and they go on seemingly forever. But I would love to be able to have a choice about whether I use PC or Mac and be able to use those products. Anyway, I'm getting close to the end of Apple here. I think I mentioned this already, but it deserves its own little place in history in terms of what's wrong with Apple. And maybe it's emblematic of everything that's wrong with Apple. The HomePod. So the HomePod is a really pretty little dollop of electronics, but it was released without major functions that still aren't available several months after the release. And now they say that they didn't meet sales goals. Really? Really? Did you not meet sales goals when you put out a device that didn't have all of its features available at the time it was released and it was overpriced? Well, geez, that seems to be like Apple in a nutshell in the 2010s, unfortunately. And I don't want to say that a certain person is not around to really kind of right the ship, but there's a person that's not around, that's not available to right the ship. And going from there, I'm old enough to remember when Apple was like the cool underground developer of stuff. They were for the creatives. They were for everything. I remember watching the 1984 Super Bowl commercial where they, with the hammer and it breaks the blah, blah. It was a great commercial. I remember when the iMac came out and the Think Different ad strategy. That was so brilliant because it wasn't only advertising a piece of hardware. It was advertising the kind of work that you could do with that product, and that Apple was a company that cared about everybody's ability to move outside of the very strict nature of our culture. And now Apple has become what they were fighting against. Microsoft at the time was looked at as the very stodgy kind of, we put our stuff everywhere in whatever machine you make, and it just grows like a virus, and it's very corporate. Apple seemed like the total opposite of that now, but now that they've got their giant spaceship donut and they have $1 trillion, it seems like they have lost that edge. And I guess that's only something that you could anticipate. You can't be on top and still, nip at the heels of the competition. They're out as front runners, just going, and it makes me sad because it's not the Apple that I fell in love with, say, 20, almost 30 years ago. So this, and the final thing that I want to talk about with Apple is their overarching egotism. They, from the pricing structure to the disregard for, people's, they just have this egomaniacal idea that everything that they do should be what everybody wants. And people complain about like iOS devices being locked down to a certain thing, and that does work for some people. But Apple always thinks that they know best what the customer needs before the customer knows they need it. And so they're going to, reach down from on high and drop these magical pearls into our hands, and we look up at them and say, "Thank you. I didn't know I needed this until you made it." No, not true. So that to me is just a broad range of what's wrong with Apple, but I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet at all. I am going to go through a list of what's wrong with Android. Now, Android is not a bit, Android is, it's more of a horizontal base of a lot of different manufacturers, and not necessarily, one central thing like Apple is. So it's not really an apples comparison, but these are some of the things about Android that I think they need. Well, I don't know if they need to do anything about it anyway. So, but now I've pissed off the Apple people for about 10 minutes or so, maybe 20, I don't know. And I'm going to piss off the Android people. So, number one, McDonald's style ubiquity. They throw their operating system on anything with circuits. You can use Android anywhere, and there's no control over who uses it, how or why, what they do to it, or anything like that. So it's like, Android is the McDonald's of mobile operating systems. You can put it on anything, and you can stop off at any rest area or pull off the interstate at any exit and get yourself some Android. And that just leads to what I guess we call operating system fragmentation. Operating system fragmentation. What does that mean? It means when you have an operating system, like you release Android Oreo, then you have to give it out to all the companies that are going to use it. They license it from you. And then they have to figure out how to make it work on their devices. And that's when you get things like the Samsung experience or TouchWiz, these overlays of other ideas on top of really good ideas. So if Android just has no real ability to hold their products in any kind of control, they just go out everywhere and splinter. So that's operating system fragmentation. And what that leads to ultimately is really crappy device upgrade support. How many of you out there have an Android device that's more than 2 years old, and did you get the most recent version of Android? I'm guessing that there are some people out there that did, but there are a lot of people out there that didn't and won't ever. So it's, again, sort of insulting, bordering on criminal, to sell somebody a very expensive device and then cease to support it within 18 to 24 months. So that to me is a big mistake on Androids. Well, I keep saying Android, but whoever makes these products, big problem. And another big problem that is also stems from some of this, and I've talked about this in my most recent video about the S9 Plus, battery life. Battery life on nearly every Android device that I've used has always been pretty terrible. And my iPhones, as long as it's the iPhone Plus models, are just amazing troopers. They will just carry you through a day and beyond. Similarly sized Android devices will barely get you to nightfall at times. And it's because they haven't been able to optimize the products to work with the operating system in the way that Apple has been able to do with theirs. Now, what we're talking about here is a horizontal versus vertical means of production. And Apple is horizontal or vertical because they actually want to control all the things that go into making their product. So that gives them a much greater degree of control over what that final product is, how it works, and how well optimized the software is with the hardware. Whereas Android, it goes into so many different devices, and those devices are different from one device to the next, and you can't ever get an optimization that really will allow for even decent battery life. And yeah, that was my next point, actually. Bad hardware and software integration. So earlier today, I was reading some comments on my S9 Plus, why I returned my S9 Plus video. And with a straight face, I assume, there were many commenters that were saying, well, that's just stupid. You can't complain about the battery life. All you have to do is go in and shut off this and shut off that and turn off this and turn off that and uninstall this and uninstall that. And I'm like, what in the hell are you talking about? If I just spent $900 on a phone, there is no way I should have to dig deep into the operating system to shut a bunch of stuff off so that I can get decent battery life. That's an absolutely ridiculous claim. And yeah, maybe I could do that, but these are products, they're just made for widespread audiences. So anyway, you can't say like, well, you do this list of 12 things that, you have to really know what you're talking about in terms of electronic devices and software to get to. No, the manufacturer should find a way to optimize the software to maximize things like battery life. And until Android really gets that, and until they really start to take better control over what manufacturers are able to do with their devices, then they are not going to be at the same level as something like an Apple ecosystem that's vertical. That's just the truth of the matter. Truth of the matter, no doubt. No discussion. I'm putting my foot down. And so this is not really a current complaint, but until recently, Android devices compared to iOS devices were really ugly and not very well made. A lot of plastic, just really kind of made cheaply and maybe practically, but they just weren't very elegant devices. Now, with Samsung and other manufacturers, we have seen a huge leap forward in design, and these are beautiful looking phones, but I just sort of had to throw that in there so that everybody remembers that Android phones used to look like potatoes. Okay? So, Uh, here's one that is certain to be popular amongst the Android fans of my audience. Um, the Android manufacturers are followers and not leaders. They don't lead on anything. They get a licensed operating system that they put into a phone that's, in many ways, like, look at a lot of these Chinese phones look exactly like the Oppo and the Huawei and all this. They're in the same bodies. But even worse than that, everybody hated the notch from the iPhone 10 in this past year. It was, I could not have a discussion about the iPhone 10 without talking about the notch. But then all the Android manufacturers, save for Samsung, all the Android manufacturers, they said, Apple's got that notch, we got to have one too. I love that I see, like, in the comments, people are leaving. Oh, geez. Now let's keep going. There's no reason to have a notch on all these phones, but now even Samsung is gonna get their notch on. I don't know if it's gonna happen with the Note 9. I don't know if it's gonna happen with some other phone down the line, but it's just so annoying to be such a follower. Yeah. Anyway, now let's talk about software a little bit more. Google, being the company that sort of bequeaths the operating system on the world, what are they doing? I mean, they don't successfully build their own phones. They don't really pay much attention to the production of the phones they put their name on. They do correct the problems like the ugly blue screen of the Pixel 2 XL. But how many messaging apps does Google have available? Just Google. How many messaging apps do they have right now? There's Allo, there's Duo, there's Hangouts, it's stupid to have multiple competing products available all at the same time. They all repeat the same functionality. I can't understand how you run a business like that. It's just unbelievable. And when I run an Android device, how many of those Google apps do I have that I use on my phone? 0. It's a sad commentary that the messaging app on the Samsung S9 Plus that I had was way better than anything that Google offers right now. And if that's the way Google is developing their software, then they need to rethink. They need to rethink. So another thing, one thing that people love about Apple devices is that you can integrate your Apple devices, like you network everything, even your headphones, like the AirPods or your Beats or whatever, they can be connected to every device that you own that they could be connected to. And you can get your messages everywhere and you can do all this stuff, and it's just really incredible. But when it comes to Android, what is the ecosystem of devices that Android can flow out from your phone and into? There's Chromecast, I guess. Chromecast is cool. But really, nothing else. The Android tablet is dead. Android has actually announced that for Android P, they are not going to support, they're not going to have tablet support for the next iteration of Android. So Android tablets are dead. There are Chromebooks, but Chromebooks are sort of like, they were a good option when netbooks were really crappy. And now they're good for education on some levels. But Chromebooks are not really devices that the majority of people could use in any kind of robust way. They have a very specific use case and they cover very specific things, but they are not computers. So what do you branch out to and connect to when you're working with Android? Samsung has tried with their watches and their earbuds and all that kind of stuff, but it's kind of upsetting when you look at what you can do in the Apple ecosystem, and then you look at what you can't do with device connection with the Android operating system. Bloatware. The one thing I really admired about Apple when they released the iPhone 10, they said AT&T, not the iPhone 10, just the iPhone. They said, AT&T, we're going to give you the rights to sell this phone, but you can't do any crap to it at all. You can't put your stupid AT&T app on there. You can't, nothing. You can't put your NFL live thing on there, nothing. But now the Android needed to get into the retail space. And in order to do that, they had to bow down to the carriers and take whatever the carriers were given. So that maybe bow down is not the right phrase. Maybe it's they had to bend over and take whatever the carriers were given. And now that they it's that whole thing of like, no, you got to go deactivate 100 apps and you got to do this and you got to do that, and then it works like a dream. That's not how it's supposed to work. That's not how it's supposed to work. And when you have an option like the iPhone, it's really hard to make an argument for the thing that you really have to work at to make it work right. So, now I'm going to get a little bit personal with the Android people. I have never in my days come across a group of people who are so reactionary and so insecure. I mean, Apple folks are that way to a certain extent, but they also know that Apple is like the richest company in the world or whatever. So they can feel a little bit of good that way. But every time I publish a video where I say something negative about Samsung, I get called names. I love flagging people when this happens. I get called names. I get just like, it's over and above anything else. And what I want to know is, why are Android users so insecure about their operating system? Why do they feel like they have to go to those lengths to defend their phones? I don't want to provoke any sort of insurrection from the Android people, but the thing is, you just have to let it go, dude. If you like your phone, then good. If I don't like your phone, that's fine. But what I do on this channel, what I do with my voice in this space, is to say in the most honest, hopefully painfully honest way, what is good and bad about any product. So, just stop being so insecure. I'm going to charge each and every one of you for this little psychotherapy session that we're having. Stop being so insecure. Love your phone. Love yourself, Android user. And I think I'm starting to reach the end here. Yeah. Well, the last thing I want to talk about, and this is a huge problem for Samsung, but it's also a huge problem for just about every other Android device, is that there are so many features available on Android devices. Samsung is the biggest offender, but I get really, really anxious, and I have option anxiety because I don't know if I want to use one of the 5 security methods or all of them. I don't know if I want to use, scroll the screen with my eyeballs. I don't know if, it's great to have options, and people love the customizability of Android, but when you have too many options, it kind of just sort of stops me in my tracks. and makes me sort of feel, as much as people say Apple phones are restrictive, I feel restricted by the just overabundance of options that are out there for any Android phone. I never use half of them. I get tired. I get frustrated, and I just sort of acquiesce and say, well, I'm tired of trying to tweak this phone. I've been spending 2 weeks on it, and now I'm just going to use it however it is. Widgets all over the place. They look like crap. A lot of times that customizability of Android, being able to put anything anywhere, leads to some really ugly phone screens. That's where I'm going to leave it. Okay? Apple and Android, they both got their problems. They both got their issues. And I'm willing to tell you what I think they are. Now, can we have a conversation about it? That's something else. So this ends the podcast portion of my ranting that I think I've been doing for like 45 minutes now. And I will now start to pay attention to the chat, and we will talk and just, love each other. That's what we're going to do. So, what question? I've been like looking at the chat go, and I haven't really been reading anything. So somebody drop me a question, and then I will answer it. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. We were up over 120 viewers, almost 130 viewers. I have never had that many people on a live stream before. Maybe it was the title. I don't know. But it was fun. It was fun. Am I still using the iPad Pro? No. Once I got into all the things that I needed to buy for it to use it as what I wanted it to be, a $1,200 device became a $1,500 device. And if I wanted to spend $1,500 on something, I could use that money for a lot of things that would give me a lot more joy. Millennials are crybabies. Them's fighting words, Mark and Catherine. I haven't seen the news about the Pixel 3. I've been totally just narrow focused on what I've been doing. So I haven't really checked out the new Pixel stuff. I'm interested to see it though. I am not using the OnePlus 5T either. I am using the iPhone 10. The iPhone 10 is likely going to be the phone that I'm using at least until next month when the LG G7 troglodyte or whatever they're calling it gets released. I think that's going to be a phone that just fails more miserably than other Android phones. And or other LG phones, I guess. Thoughts on Music Man guitars? They're good guitars. I don't think they're still owned by the original company that made the original guitars, but they still make good guitars. Any non-Chinese Android phone you can recommend apart from Samsung? That's a good question. Most of them come from China. So, I don't know. Kyle, is the HTC U12 not going to get carrier support? Thin Q. That's so clever. And that's stupid. Why would you call it that? The G5 failed. The G6 was released at the worst possible time. The V30 got caught up in between Samsung and Apple and got lost. LG has just not been able to find a way to put out products, advertise them, and get people to buy them. I did not see Talos of Tech going after Linus. Linus is a guy like he's a terrier. I would not want to go after Linus, although I probably will, because because I think he's got claws. He's going to come after you. So that's bold on the part of Drew over there. Going, what was? No, I haven't. I haven't seen the new Linus video. I will check it out though, because that sounds super drama alert, and it'll be a lot of fun. Why does iOS have one-day Wi-Fi and Bluetooth disable annoying functions? Well, I think the reason is they turn it off, but they don't want you to use too much of your data and by forgetting to turn it back on, so they will turn it back on the next day. It's supposed to be a good function, but do you prefer, man, why are you yelling at me, Mac Diesel? Do I prefer Apple or Android? Yes, I do. When do you think we'll have an American-made phone? Isn't the Essential phone made in the U.S.? I thought I heard that it was, but I can't remember exactly. Mark, the V20 is one of my favorite phones ever, and I kind of wish that I could still get one for like $200. I think I can get a V30 for like $350. So God of War comes out this Friday. I did not play the other God of War games. That was kind of in my I'm not gaming right now period. But it looks great. It looks really great. Yeah, Kamari, I am gonna. Linus has been kind of on a tear recently with some ranty videos, so I'll definitely check that out. Eugene says, but you went after MKBHD. No, I didn't go after him. There was nothing in that video that was like me going after MKBHD. I did a sort of a look into what I thought was the pros and cons of what he does well and what he might not, what he might not focus on. I thought it was pretty darn fair and even, fair and balanced. I thought it was pretty fair and balanced. I think other people did too, except for some others. Maybe not everybody. I don't know. Blue. I think Blue are Chinese phones. Noah says, Linus is good at PC reviews, but is pretty shallow with phones. Taylosov is probably the most defensive fanboy of either Apple or Android. Well, Linus does do great PC stuff, although I haven't seen, like, there was Linus Tech Tips back in the day when he reviewed products, and that was kind of it. And now it's Linus Media Group, and I can't really figure out what it's about. But, when he does PC stuff, he does it really well. Scrapyard Wars, that was a super cool series. I wish that they would be focused like that, but it seems like they're not very focused right now. Okay, you've taken cap locks off there, Mac Diesel, so I will tell you that I truly enjoy both. However, I more often go back to an iOS device and sort of just honeymoon in the Android space, if that makes any sense. I like them both, though. The truth is I've been an Apple customer since 1993. And, there's a lot about Apple devices that I really appreciate. However, right now I'm using a PC because I didn't want to pay the $1,000 extra for a comparable Mac. So, where did that go? Tech for your needs. I use both operating systems, and they have pros and cons. I'm fine using both. Fanboys are giving advertisements to companies for free, not gaining no money. Okay, I think I know what you mean there. Yeah, and the thing about Drew over at Talos of Tech is that he found his swing when he really started focusing on the Android stuff, or Apple stuff. I'm sorry, when he really started focusing on the Apple stuff, and he's kind of run with that, and I don't blame him because he's doing incredibly well for himself, and that is a good thing. I'll be anxious to see how his channel continues to develop, just like I'm anxious to see how anybody's channel develops. Because I don't know if you can go like 100% Apple sheep 100% of the time. But we'll see where he goes with that. Are you pumped? Joseph asks, are you pumped for the Apple Watch Series 4 Nike edition with GPS coming out in September? I'm not necessarily. I don't get pumped for much. And I don't really like the design of the Nike Apple Watches too much. But a new Apple Watch GPS only without having to have I don't know if there probably is a model, right, that has GPS but not cell service. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see what it is. I'm looking forward to see if they make any broad changes. Mac Diesel back with the caps lock. Can you recommend a good pair of wireless headphones for the Xbox One? It depends on price range. Probably the best that you can get is the Astro A50s. The Astro A20s would also be really good. All the other, like, people really like the Arctis Steel, the Steel Series Arctis headphones. So that would be a way to go too. And the nice thing about the Arctis line is as you go up the price range, like from the 3 to the 5 to the 7, they're all using the same drivers in the ear cups. So you have the same speakers and therefore somewhat the same sound. But yeah, but if money is no object, Astro A50s are the best until somebody like, comes up with something that's better. People tell me that the Lucid Sound stuff is really good. But I've reached out to them a bunch of times and said, hey, I want to review your stuff, and they never got back to me. So, yeah, that's just how it is. Oh, we got... So, is it Trocolix or Trocolix? Hey, Jason, would you please check out my other channel, Tech to Review? I really don't care if you do it off camera. I just love to get some feedback. I will make a note and I will try. I should have some time tomorrow. Okay, man? But I'm not getting in the business of channel reviewing. Unless, well, I guess I am if I'm reviewing MKBHD. That's not really a review. It's going to be a whole series of YouTubers, but you know what I mean. Anyway. Yeah, the headphone jack is still a thing that I'm like very frustrated by. There are many wireless headphones that I love, but I still want to be able to plug in my wired headphones that I love, like these beautiful Sennheiser HD 600s. I wish I could say this live stream is sponsored by Sennheiser, but they didn't give me a single dime. So I got a super chat, $2.99. SR Bell 67 asks, would you take it up the ASS for $100K? No, I wouldn't. I'm 46 years old, dude. I already have enough problems with that stuff. So, no. Let's scroll down here. Do you think the notch is a bad trend? Says Logan Hampton. I don't know. I mean, if it wasn't Apple, would anyone have really cared about the notch? I mean, the Essential phone had a notch first. It's not as big a notch, but yeah. So iMessage is the main factor for not switching to another OS. So this is I've used iMessage a lot, but I have friends and family who use all kinds of different devices, so I don't always get all the benefits of iMessage when I text people that I know. So I never really understand why people feel locked in by iMessage. Maybe somebody can explain that to me one of these days. Weird people? Yes. Weird people. Eugene loves when tech YouTubers go after each other. I hope that this doesn't devolve into like another sort of Keemstar type drama thing. That's not at all what I'm trying to do. I'm honestly interested in looking at how people operate when they do the work that they do, and that's why I'm doing this series where I look at other YouTubers, but I'm definitely not talking trash or anything like that. Well, at least not yet, but I'll still try and be fair and balanced if I do talk trash. Do you think Apple will keep the notch? Part of me says I would love it if Apple ditched the notch this year. I hit my microphone. Sorry about that. If they ditched the notch this year as just a straight up FU to all the followers. That's what I would love to see. I don't know if I'll see it. I think they'll probably have it this year, but I'm sure the goal is to go to like continuous slab of glass with everything underneath it. So but I don't know when they'll get there. Oh, but aren't most so podcast, did you say that iMessage has good encryption? Other iMessage, yeah. So okay, I see that. And Tech Free Needs, you say that you don't have to use your data plan; you can use Wi-Fi. Yes, that's also very good. That's my daughter relied on that to be able to text us, or whenever she was using her iPhone or iPad before she had her own iPhone. So, yeah. So I see. I see where you're coming from. SR Bell 67. If you keep dropping the price of your super chats and asking me these really disgusting questions, I mean, you've got to up the level here, $2.99 to like $3.99 before I answer another one of these disgusting questions. The new Sony Golds are on my list, Jake. I have not been playing console really much at all for a while now. Like YouTube has sort of taken over my life, and so I haven't gotten to them yet. But I promise that I will get to them. Also, the new SteelSeries, Arctis Pro. Yeah. I got a list of gaming headsets that I want to get to sometime soon. Maybe I just don't have any friends, and that's why leaving iMessage doesn't bother me all that much. I'm a lonely old man. I talk to the internet. What's my daily driver right now? This product red iPhone 10. I wanted to buy the product red iPhone, um, but I I didn't want to spend $800 on a phone when I could just get the $49 leather case and have all the fun that I would otherwise. So SR Bell 67 is MKBHD in disguise. I don't know. That boy's got a potty mouth. So, do you think apples and oranges now between apples versus? Yeah, I mean, it kind of is. There's enough that's different about their product strategies that makes them better targeted for different segments of the market. As so many people love to tell me, iPhones are for old people. I guess. And Android is for the young people. That's what people tell me on the internet. So I must be true. Johnny, this is a cool question. Where do you see cell phone technology in 10 years? Man, I don't even know. I don't think we'll have cell phones anymore. I think we'll have implants. That's what I want. I want implants. I want to be able to like pull my earlobe and make a call. And then I want like the Google Assistant to just be like embedded in my forehead. And I can just say, hey, Google, and then it'll light up. That's what I want. Yeah, that's what I want. I do think that we're going to move away from the block of this, as Juan Carlos Bagnell says, the glowing rectangle. We're going to move away from the glowing rectangle. That much I know. The DeX thing, A10 Pilot, the DeX thing is really pretty cool. And I've been wanting to check it out, but I just don't keep the Samsung devices for long enough. So maybe when I make a tons of money on YouTube, then I can buy the devices and keep them. But until then, I am but a human being. Jonathan Honeywell asks, what made you start your YouTube journey? Really, like, I started playing Battlefield 4 with a friend of mine who lives in Buffalo, New York, and I'd never owned a gaming headset before because I never had any reason to talk to people while I was playing games. So I went out and I bought a gaming headset, and it was a piece of crap, and so I made a review of it, and I took it back, and I got another one, and it was a piece of crap, and I made a review of it, and it just kind of kept going like that. People give me shit for taking things back all the time, but you know what? Here's the thing. Make a good product, and I'll keep it. Make a product that isn't crap, and I'll be happy to use it. But until then, I'm not going to just use something because I feel bad about taking it back to the store. That they have the return policy. If they don't want to honor the return policy, well, I don't know. Eugene, do you like Austin Evans? I don't know him personally. And yes, I do. I'll say this. So I wanted to build a computer with my son. This was probably 3 Christmases ago, and I had never built a computer before, and neither had my son. So we found a build that Austin Evans put on his channel, and we bought all the parts, and we followed his video, and we put it together, and it was a great experience. And I very much appreciate that. He's sort of grown into a different kind of YouTuber since then, which isn't a bad thing. I watch his videos, not all the time, but I do enjoy some of his content. So, tech for your needs. iPhone is not for old people. Kids love iPhones too. Yeah. Maybe it's just that Android phones are for 20-something people who have low self-esteem. Is that what you're saying? Tech for your needs? I don't know. No, I agree. The future of smartphones is going to be part of a bigger system. I mean, I think we can already see that with AR technology starting to come around. Um, you like your Essential phone? It is really a great looking phone. Um, and I think it just had so many things go wrong for it in the span of time where it needed to be doing well. Like Andy Rubin gets, Me Too outed, and that's a terrible thing. And but I do want to have an Essential phone. I wasn't going to pay $700 for it. It's not. I have Verizon as my primary carrier. Can't get it on there. So iPhone 8 is for old people. Why only iPhone 8? Kyle, that doesn't make any sense. Uh, well, yes. When I look at my class, when I look generally anywhere, but when I look at kids, well, they're not kids; they're young adults. They're in their mid-20s by the time they leave the med school. Um, the iPhone is by far the most carried phone, and the MacBook Pro is the most carried laptop. So that's saying something. Uh, what else we got here? 720p. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Team Pixel. iPhone 8 is a beautiful phone. Lots of people. I, when the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus came out, I made a video that said the iPhone 8 Plus was the best phone that you could get at that time, and I believe that it's still one of the best phones that you can get. That product read iPhone 8 Plus was calling my name. Jason, come to me. But I withstood the temptation, and I rarely do withstand the temptation to to buy things. But I need to get better at it because I want to be able to go to like YouTube related functions that are, well, there are no YouTube related functions in my area. So I want to be able to go to VidCon, VidSummit, something like that. I want to be able to do lots of different things. And so I need to not spend all my money. I'm trying. Well, okay, Janesh, I'm gonna qualify your idea that um, iPods saved the music industry. iPods saved the people who made money off of music. Unfortunately, that does not include the artists who write and perform the music. The music business of the early 90s and the music business of the late 90s and onward, two incredibly different things. Artists mattered in the pre-digital, everything is free era. Um, and now artists don't matter, which is sad. Why review YouTubers? It's not really a review. I mean, I'm interested in the idea of, so YouTube is a wide open space with no real rules, right? So in theory, there are rules. The YouTube terms of service are the rules that you have to follow. But random people basically can decide, I'm going to review something. Or I'm going to make videos about this or that or the other thing. And I think it's really interesting to sort of look at them and what they do well, what they may not do as well, or anything like that. So that's kind of what this series is about for me. Yeah, it's not about reviewing YouTubers. There are people that I admire that I want to look more deeply into how they do what they do. And so that's sort of the impetus for this Can You Trust series, because I believe that the most precious coin available in the YouTube land has to be trust. If you can't trust somebody who's presenting a product to you, then that screws up the whole deal. And I think there are probably some bad actors out there, some very successful bad actors. Not maybe bad actors all the time, but bad actors as in like some of the shit's so that's, I just want to kind of look and discuss and maybe make people mad or make people happy. So that's that. Do I watch sports? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I grew up in Morgantown, West Virginia. I went to West Virginia University. I followed WVU sports not as religiously as I once did, but I watched, I think, all but 2 of West Virginia's basketball games this year and last year too. So yeah. So, but I'm also, I watch the NFL. The NFL's, I'm a Steelers fan. Lived in New York for 11 years, and that was moved to New York in 1993, left in 2003, so got to be there through that whole Joe Torre, Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera run. That was truly amazing. So I'm a Yankees fan as well, and most people hate the Yankees seemingly everywhere, except the Yankees are also loved. So Zeke says, I don't know if trust is a concern, but just being genuine and about their feelings, or is that the same thing? I mean, yeah, I think being genuine is kind of, they kind of go hand in hand. Like if you're being dishonest, then you can't be genuine. And if you're doing something with ulterior motives in mind, like say making money or whatever, then you can't really be genuine either. Any popular YouTuber in particular that you avoid due to mistrust? I don't want to name anybody right now. I need to think about these things before I open my mouth. There are some people that I used to watch religiously that I don't watch anymore. And I'll cover those people in this Can You Trust series. Will I do a review on iJustine or iJustin? iJustin is her brother. Yes, I am going to talk about iJustine. But again, I'm not going to talk about it right now because I haven't really formulated my thoughts about what I have to say. I haven't really I like to watch a bunch of videos from, old videos to middle videos to newer videos and kind of see the arc that a creator has had. It's just really interesting to me because I'm a creative person myself, and I like to see how people develop what they do. College sports don't count. Yes, they do. What are you, crazy? Of course you're an Eagles fan. I have plenty of friends who are Eagles fans. But yeah, that also allowed me to understand exactly how much of a sports rabid town Philadelphia is. I hope you guys just chill out now that you've won a football championship. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. What do you do with your old tech? I sell it on eBay because, man, I spend a lot of money on all this stuff, and I'm not complaining. I choose to do it, but sometimes I have to turn things around in order to be able to get new things to review for the channel, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I do. I try not to keep a big stockpile of stuff. This means stockpile. What is my main reason for sticking with the iPhone 10? I've just found that for my daily use, it's the phone that sort of fits me best right now. I'll move on to other phones as the year goes on. So Janish, will they launch iPhone 9 or 11? I think that there's talk that the cheaper LCD model will be called the 9, but and some people are saying the XS or the 10S. But see, if you're going with the X, then it's XS, and then it's too on the nose for Apple. XS, you know what I mean? I think that they should start their naming conventions by just saying like iPhone. It's called iPhone Plus, and then use years like they do with all the other products that they have. Algorithm Nation, you are absolutely correct. The iPhone 10 does have a Samsung display, and it's a very nice display as well. Here's the thing, though. Samsung is a bulk manufacturer of electronic parts for huge portions of the world. They put their parts in a lot of stuff, and that's where they make a lot of their money. So they're not just a front-facing retail manufacturer. They make parts. And so they made the screen that Apple used in the iPhone 10. It doesn't mean that Samsung beat Apple in any way. In fact, well, they kind of did, because they were the only people, it was the only company that had the manufacturing ability to make the number of screens needed in the amount of time necessary. So they could basically name their price, and they charged Apple like $125, $130 something for each screen, whereas the iPhone 7 Plus screen costs something like $40. So anyway. Troclix, what do you want me to see? What did I miss? I don't know. You work for Samsung? Okay. Yes. No, that's correct. Samsung supplies the RAM, and for a lot of different RAM and everything else for different phones. That's their business. Tom, I wouldn't bet the farm on whether or not there's going to be an LG V40. I hope there is. I think there are plans to have one, but LG seems to be having some trouble. And yeah, so I guess it's probably about time for me to wrap up as well. What time is it? 10:51. Yeah, I've been going for about an hour and a half. Thank you, Algorithm Nation. I appreciate it. And after my rant, I'm a little spent. So I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to say thanks to everybody who's been here. We've got 91 people in the room, and I really appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much for stopping by. Thanks so much for watching the channel. And I will look forward to next Tuesday when I'll be back with another episode of the Painfully Honest Tech podcast, where I may or may not rant about things I don't know. So thank you all. Have a great night. I will talk to you very soon with another video. Until the next time, I'm out.